Hey Skyfarers, and welcome to Aethercast, the Kharadron Overlords channel and podcast, where today we've got a call interview with a tournament winner for you guys. As ever,
Hey guys.
Joined by our Dwarden Prime, Max Bowman.
Hey guys.
Thanks. And our special guest for tonight's show is Mr. Tom Mawdsley. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Cool. Yeah, it's great to have you. And congratulations on your win.
Thank you very much.
Although I have to ask, because I didn't get time to ask you before the show, you've had another tournament since the one we're talking about, which is just a one day. How did you get on in that?
I won that one.
Oh, okay.
That was a 44 player one day event though. So there was like 4 or 5 people on max wins.
Yeah.
So I think I was lucky to win on tie breaks essentially.
Yeah, I mean, because I had one recently with 20 people and we had 2 people.
That's it. It's
so you've got like 40. You're gonna have
It's it was interesting. It was a good day though.
Yeah,
really good day.
Really good.
2 on the bounce, 2 weekends in a row.
2 weekends in a row.
Nice.
Cool.
Not very often we get to do that.
Yeah, very nice. Cool. So before we jump into everything to do with the tournament and Tom's list, there is some news. Some news we actually have to talk about for once, because we've been skipping the news a lot recently. But there's been some FAQs.
Yeah,
true. So we don't need to talk about everything, but it's been some minor points changes. No points changes for KO, which is good.
Dodge that bullet.
Yeah, they're probably still coming soon though. Yeah, temporarily dodged the bullet.
I mean, points. I don't think they are just points during the season.
No.
Well, next one.
I think the GHB. Potentially a little bit.
Because the next thing is going to be the GHB, isn't it? And that's already gone to print a while ago. So.
Yeah, but the points, they don't print them anymore.
No, true.
Thankfully, they got rid of that booklet, which was useless 2 days later.
But yeah. In terms of the actual FAQs, I mean, the only real stuff that affects KO is the rally.
Yeah, the rally, and there will be more FAQs coming, from what I hear, especially for KO. Things concerning bridging boats and then getting out of the boat and moving people has been brought to their attention by the rules team of AOS Worlds and AOSFAQ.com. And the Unleash Hell against people inside boats, etc.
Yeah, which I previously answered and removed.
Which they removed, and from what I'm hearing, they will answer it again.
Okay.
And that's about whether or not you can unleash hell against a unit in a boat if the boat charges.
Yeah, or even just unleash hell against the boat.
If you can unleash hell at all, because you have more than 1 unit within 3 inches. But from what I'm understanding, and what I've been told, is yes, you can, and you can choose freely, because at the time of finishing the charge move, there was only 1 unit physically.
Yeah, that's what I'd say.
So that is the new trigger. Like when you finish the move, it is not quite clear for frigates if you then get out of the frigate after charging. When do you issue? So do you issue between my 2 abilities, the charging, doing ramming damage, and then getting out? And that has not been answered to me yet, but we'll see some answers soon, which is good.
Yeah, it's a bit weird, because in theory you should measure to and from the boat, and so there should be, even before you get out of the boat, there's technically multiple units there.
Yes, so I think they want to,
but we know how they want it to work.
abusing that. Like,
in my eyes, if nothing else other than what's in a boat and the boat charges you at the start, then you should be free to do what you want.
Yeah. I realistically, they probably should just reword Unleash Hell, but they just probably don't want to, just to make KO work with it better. So. And the rally thing is you can't rally more than 10 models or 10 wounds.
10 wounds. Yeah.
Yeah. So
which
I don't think it makes much difference to KO?
It's a buff to KO, really. It means they're not rallying as much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
mean, makes it for me easier to choose a different article.
Yeah.
I was always torn between that one and the +1 to wound.
I don't think it's a huge deal for. I think that it only makes a huge difference if your maximum unit really is going to be 15 of the Thunderers. I don't think you're going to see multiple reinforced Archanaut units. Even if 14 of them are dead on average, you're only getting 7 back. You're now getting 5. It's not a huge change.
No, it's significant for things like 30 hoppers or
you can't rally 2 dragons anymore.
Yeah, you cannot drag.
It takes away the spikes.
Yeah,
it takes away the field ad.
two fulminators and things like that. So
yeah,
that's good. Yeah,
cool. And I think generally speaking, on arcane terms as well. Actually, we should probably mention that.
But it's not
doesn't
significant
affect
for
KO.
us.
No.
We cannot have the flaming weapon admiral with damage 7.
No.
But,
which realistically you'd be casting Mystic Shield anyway.
Yeah, it was fun on paper, but I don't know if anyone ever did.
Did anyone
it with
actually?
And
that's the flaming grudge bearer.
Yeah,
nice.
That's a shame, but still.
So,
no.
I guess in some ways that's a buff for KO because it's affecting other lists more than us. So
it is affecting especially casters who wanted to cast an extra spell.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's the news done then, unless there's some other news.
I think the summary is other people got slightly worse.
Yeah.
Which is
I guess Slaves to Darkness got a little bit better because they got points drops. So...
points drops on a lot of the things that you probably won't see. The night points drop probably makes a little bit of a difference.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't understand it. Everyone is using knights, so how? Why?
Yeah.
Then maybe they want to sell more.
Probably. I don't know if they work. I hope they don't work like that.
Okay. Cool. So, Tom, let's talk about you and your tournament stuff. So, for anyone that doesn't know who you are, do you just want to just have a little chat about yourself?
Yeah,
Warhammer and stuff.
So I have been playing, and I'm sure if you go back and listen to me on other shows, I get this number wrong every time, and it changes every single time. But I think I've been playing competitive Warhammer for about 15 years, through sort of 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th edition fantasy. Breaks here and there, you can't do it all the time, can you? So yeah, been around the scene for a long time. Involved in the international community for quite a while. Played the ETC for 7th and 8th edition for England. England captain for AOS for 2018, 19. 3 or 4 years around around that time. So sort of we took the team out to Novi Sad in Serbia. Missed the one in Italy, just because COVID restrictions were a bit of a nightmare, and then out to Prague in 2022. Going over to Amsterdam this year, but just as coach. 4 years as captain was plenty for me. No one. It was 2 years longer than I wanted to do it in the first place, but I didn't have any victims to pass it on to until now. So yeah, I've always played a lot of different armies. Like I am an army butterfly. I'll never stick with a faction for more than a certain number of events. Usually one. It's actually a miracle that I managed to take to KO to 2 in a row. I think that was just because it was 2 in a row and I didn't have time to think of something else. But yeah, play a little bit of everything, as you can probably see in the cabinet behind me. There is all sorts of nonsense in there.
Yeah, I mean, I can't make out much of it, but I can see some dragons.
Yeah,
they're the big silhouette in the top. Yeah. But yeah, it's like unashamedly competitive. Not to I hope not to a fault anyway. But I like to, if I'm going to an event, I'd like to be in with a shot of winning. I'll take the strongest list that I can in most cases.
Cool. So would you pick up KO with the new book then? I'm assuming.
So I've had KO since Clown Car, since the original Clown Car,
first book then.
The original one, which I took to Blood Tithe. years are absolutely losing me at the moment. I think it was 2018. So that was the original, the clad with all the bubbles and some bits inside and things like that. And then I played that for that one event. I put the book down for a while, played a little bit with the tome before the current one, but more of a fun. I say fun. It was just all boats, 2 chemists, prime, 3 frigates, 6 gun haulers, just having doing the Zilfin, drop the warp lightning vortex, run away and kite with ships and things. It was really interesting when the boats could be anywhere all at once. Was great fun. And then so I had a lot of KO painted coming into the new tome coming out. And with it coming out not long before Justice Series, I thought it'd be a good time to give it a go. It'd be the first event that it was legal at in the UK, maybe. Might be wrong on that. First event that I know of.
It's definitely the first 2-day event anyway. There might be some little 1-days or something.
Yeah, potentially. So I just get excited with new books. Had multiple chats with lists with certain people. Because I was going to go one way. I think the book kind of leads you to the frigates and the combat, which is kind of where I was going initially. And then after a couple of chats with a few other people that sort of mentioned just to give the Thunderous Scroll another look and things like that, that's how I settled on kind of where I ended up.
Yeah, I feel like the book kind of gives you 2 different routes, and it's very easy to go down one route or the other, and it's kind of hard to.
Yeah, whereas I ended up going down both.
Yeah, treading that path between the 2 is a little bit more difficult because the way the points work out and things, I think. But
I think the frigates, the whole combat boat, the ASF, that's the new shiny. That's sort of where I first looked at it. Ultimately, I'm not sure a list like that does work because of how fragile the stuff is when it gets out. Maybe with the 4-up rallies and things like that. So I ended up taking the list that I took to Justice.
Cool. So that's a nice little segue then to have a look at the list, which just appeared without me actually scrolling somehow, just to confuse me. So I'll quickly rattle through the list just for anyone that will listen in the future on the podcast. So it's Barak Zilfin, 1 drop at 1970 points. With the Inspired Triumph and Rule the Skies grand strategy. The article is Settle the Grudges for the +1 to wound, Prosecute Wars with all haste as the amendment, and there's no reward without risk for the typo. So, and obviously it's 1 drop, so everything's in a battle regiment. So the general is an Arcanite Admiral with the X Grundstock command trait, Celestian Burst Grenade, and leadership of the Alpha. A chemist, Brock Grunson, unit of 10 Arcanauts with a light skyhook and no other light special weapons. A frigate with heavy sky cannon and magnificent omniscope for the extra move. 15 Thunderers with mixed weapons, 2 units of 3 Endriggers, all with swords and pistols, and an Ironclad with the last word, which is the flagship and great sky cannon. Take a breath. So I mean, there's been a little bit of a chat about this list in the KO WhatsApp chat, and someone that knows you was giving a little bit of details and said that you were very keen on the 1 drop.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing was that your big focus that you really wanted? You built the list around that.
Yeah, and it's very different to how I normally play the game. I don't often play 1 drops. I'll often just go as many drops as I can. But I think in the game that we're playing at the moment, and especially using a shooting army, very buff heavy meta. I think you want to have an idea of who's going first or second. It gives you. This is speaking specifically about it being a singles event. I think for teams you can afford to go completely other ways. So the thoughts were, how can I best spend the points within the constraints of a battle regiment? which is why the Brock choice in Barak Zilfin is a little bit of a weird one. But being completely honest, his shooting is worth the points alone.
He is.
And he
He's
buffs
very
himself
good, yeah.
still. So
Mhm.
you know, there is still a Barak Nar keyword in the list.
Yeah, I guess we should explain for anyone a little bit confused that but one of his main abilities, the +1 to attack ability, targets the Barak Nar keyword. So basically everything else in the list doesn't have that keyword, so it doesn't work, but it does work on him because he keeps the Barak Nar keyword. And he also doesn't benefit from any Barak Zilfin allegiance abilities, but luckily that's basically just to have an extra footnote for the boats anyway. So it's not that big a deal.
Yeah. So it was essentially try and spend the points as best as I think I can within the battle regiment, but also leaving room for a little triumph bid. The original list I had had wardens over Endrin riggers, but I fancied the 20-point drop on the list just because you can choose one target with Settle the Grudges for the +1 to wound, but also if you're needing to split fire, having the triumph makes a huge difference.
Yes.
As well. The Arcanauts with only the Light Sky Hook, that is just because I didn't have a built cannon. They were never very good, so I never built one. There is now one in my box that I bought from bitsbox.co.uk, ready to be painted for Blood Tithe. But there's some interesting things that I was going back and forth with on the list, and one thing I actually just flipped a coin on before submitting the list, like half an hour before, and that was the Prosecute Wars versus Trust Your Guns.
Okay.
Having the 1 reroll versus the 2d6 run, because although Brock can do run and charge on the boat, nothing in it gets to do it. So it felt a little bit wasted, but I figured there could be that one time in a game that you just need that extra little bit of movement to just snipe an objective, especially now counting as 5 and things like that. I don't think it came up, but I also think the reroll 1 is only in your turn, so you don't get to do it on an Unleash Hell, and it's too early in the process. Like if you could reroll that 1, it could still miss, it could fail to wound, they could pass their save. It just felt it's like a 1% decision. So I ended up just flipping a coin on that. I was toying between Tusk Helm and Burst Grenade on the Admiral, but I think there's still some contention as to whether Tusk Helm works with the Ironclad thing. I think it's clear that it does, but I just I didn't. I would say that because I'd be the one using it. So I just opted not to take it.
I think the overall consensus is it doesn't work.
Okay, that's cool.
I think that depends who you ask. I think there's a lot of people that would say that the consensus is that it does. So it's
it's a question. What charge roll are you basing your mortal wounds on the Tusk Helm on?
There's certainly a lot of KO players that say it works.
I thought so as well though in the beginning, but then after debate with referees, I came to the conclusion they're probably right. It doesn't work, and it should.
But I also think that, again, speaking to a singles event performance, Burst Grenade is probably better.
Yes,
because it turns.
Because Burst Grenade can win you games. So
the thing I didn't like about Burst Grenade is just that 1 in 6. I'm like, I really didn't want to be on table 1 last game, playing for a flight to America and rolling a 1. You know, that was like the worst story in the world. For me, anyway. Best story for everybody else.
Let me tell you, I used to play the 2 Admirals in the last book. And out of 5 games, I think I've rolled 4 ones.
Yeah.
So it
sounds
happens.
about right.
Yeah, it does happen.
But
I had it happen to me, unfortunately. So it's very frustrating when it does.
Two ones in one game. After one after the other. One. They say, okay, a flare pistol. 2 ones.
You obviously weren't using your Aethercast dice there.
I was using them, but I still had enough damage. So okay. It's a cool list. I have if you don't mind, I have a few questions.
Rock on.
We discussed Brock. He is still a very good hero. 8 wounds, 3 up save. good melee damage, especially after he's fought on a 2+ another D3 mortal wounds, which I always forget his muster chance.
and his mortal wounds on the charge as well. The impact is.
No, he lost those.
No, that doesn't get us anymore. It's just that instead it's after he's fought now.
Instead, they reduced his gun portfolio. And the muster guns just do mortal wounds now. But it's within 3 inches, so you could do it on a hero behind enemy lines. So
the biggest thing I found with it, the theory with the frigate is that it flew high most games turn 1, and him having 18-inch range on his guns was massive. It's so hard to screen against.
Yeah, it's a single ironclad, single shot, and then 6.
And it hits on 3s. It's so good.
Yeah, so pretty good.
He's got better carbines than the frigate as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doubles the output of the frigate.
His shooting is good. It's a shame that you don't get to use the +1 attack, but
and that's the reason that I'm in Zilfin, whether this is a question or not, is just simply to fit the 2 boats within the battle regiment.
Yeah.
It's the only
to have the frigate as battle line.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mortars on Thunderers. Would you care to elaborate?
I think they're great. When did 3s and 2s against a big unit that you've picked with your Settle the Grudges, Rend 2 for the turn? I think you can afford to lose a few of the carbine shots, I think, to have the mortars. There's enough units in the game that they're good on.
Have you found that it equals out that you're shooting? Most of the times you're shooting 5+ model units rather than just that one.
I ended up splitting fire so much, which is ridiculous. When you've got the suppressing fire rule that you don't get when you split fire, but I ended up shooting cannons somewhere, and the other bits to other units. And I think
are 18-inch.
Yes, they are.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's another thing in their favor.
I obviously, their base profile isn't great, but that turn that they're Rend 2 is sometimes all you need.
Yeah, I mean, I have to admit, I found that I've been splitting fire with them as well, and I think they kind of, if you have them in the unit, it encourages you to split fire when you are shooting that single model unit, and you're like, if I shoot that, I get 2 shots. If I shoot something else and split my fire, I get 10 shots.
Yeah,
and it's you're probably planning on killing that thing anyway. So the suppressing fire hopefully doesn't matter.
Yeah, or they've got not enough models left that you don't care whether they're on +1 or not.
Yeah.
I found the mortars absolutely fine. They're just to be on. If you are splitting fire across a lot of things to try and force some battle shock tests, them shooting a unit of 10 screening things on 2s and 2s with the Triumph Rend 2 is just a dead unit.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Okay, and you said you were basically tossing a coin whether to have Prosecute Wars with all haste at the 2d6 run or the reroll ones to hit on a single shot. And you mentioned it's a bit annoying that you run and then the unit inside counts as having run and can't shoot. Well, at least with the Endrin riggers, there's a little workaround. You can get them out in front of the boat, run the boat, move them 12 inches within 3 inches on the back of the boat, get them back in, and gain that extra base size range.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it's with 6 Endrin riggers, it's possible. I've been playing 9 with Brock and a hero, and sometimes there's just not enough space to fit them all within 3 and do it.
Yeah,
in theory, you could do it. So
being completely honest, I didn't. There's so many intricacies with Disembark Embark that I'm learning more and more as I play that I definitely haven't used.
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of difficult because you can do so many different things.
Yeah,
but
some of them don't feel like you can do it, but you definitely can. There's nothing in the rules that says you can't. It feels like you shouldn't be able to.
Yeah, my favorite thing is that if Be'lakor stops one boat, everyone can get out, get into the other boat, and then you just use that boat for that turn.
That's funny.
That's my favorite. Like, this bus is not going anywhere. Please disembark.
Yeah, we'll wait for the next
bus. Get on the next bus. Yeah. And then Arcanauts. So you have a 1-drop, which I think more often than not, you are giving away first turn because you maybe want the double in some instances. How does that work with basically one screen of 10 Arcanauts?
I took first in most games.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, you've got the choice. If you do only have one screen, you're right. So there could be games. I mean, this is my sample size of 5 games with that list at that event. I didn't play anything beforehand or anything like that. A lot of the time, so the biggest thing about the Just Play was it was 42 players. It was win-loss draw, so there was no margins of victory. It was if you win by a point, you win.
Okay.
And there was enough people to know that as long as if somebody went 5-0, they won the event. There shouldn't have been 2 people on 5-0. So my theory with taking first turn is actually just if I can kill a lot of stuff, I can then kite the remainder around to ensure that I win, whether it's big or small at that point. So the list was very much designed within that framework. Because yeah, you're right. I don't have much in the way of screens, and actually lists that I've written since the frigate had prudency shoots. Because in some of the games, I was absolutely terrified of the frigate getting wrapped and everything dying in it. And the Omniscope, the 2 inches of movement when it's flying high most of the time, just did nothing. So yeah, I ended up in all but 3 games I took first, 2 games I took second.
Okay.
Yeah. I went with the shock and awe alpha plan, try and make it unrecoverable rather than play for the double.
Okay. Not very KO like.
I'm
Give away
the
first turn
newbie.
and then double.
I'm the newbie here, you know.
But, I mean, there's pros and cons because obviously a lot of armies you give away the double and they do Mystic Shield, and I mean we give away first turn, so they do miss each other. They put up other buffs, and by getting to go first, there is some advantages to that as well. So you get in before those sorts of things.
Yeah.
You mentioned about the restrictions of Battle Regiment. I'd like to unpack that a little bit because I think some people sort of have this idea if you go Barak Zilfin, it's actually really easy to write a run drop, but it's actually still quite restrictive even in Barak Zilfin because I mean there's taking a frigate then takes up a troop slot, which then means you've got less space, and then 3 heroes is quite restrictive as well.
It's the 3 heroes. That's the biggest thing. Because you could quite easily just put more Thunderers in. But the second unit of, say, 10 that go in the frigate are so much worse. My thoughts were write a list that can use every war scroll in the army, bar the Arcanauts because they're fluff, that can hit you with everything turn 1. And there's not much you can do about it. You know, the clad's going up, the guys are getting out, they're shooting you, the frigate's flying high, it'll shoot some bits off and it'll 3d6 charge into something else, all the guys will get out and fight. So it's like, here's my 2,000 point army, and it's all hitting you straight away. With as many buffs as I can get on it. Again, similar, just trying to win small in a lot of cases. Quite a lot of 1 use only items and things within the KO book. Just chuck them all, turn 1. Just see what you can do, and then scrabble afterwards. And actually what I found was, in a lot of games, that turn 1 was just so good that the games were pretty much done. And I got, and we'll talk about this as we go through the games, but the 2 hardest matchups that I played were both 1-drop mirrors, Nagash and Teclis, and I won both of those rolls. So, you know, that's huge, right? More so in the Teclis game than the Nagash game, I think. But yeah,
especially
still.
since you don't have the auto unbind navigator. Which
is
exactly. Clutch in that match. It helps a lot. Yeah.
So yeah, that was something that kind of won me the event almost.
Yeah. Cool. And 2 more questions before we move on to
Yeah.
games. Well, unless Max has got any. There's no reward without risk to get the 18-inch or D6 3d6 charge, because I can't speak apparently. Were you ever tempted to take the one to use 2 commands on a boat?
Without our ships, we are not.
That's the one.
I think that, again, in teams, yes. And I've got that on my list for this weekend. I think in singles, you want things that will help you in the matchups that you're not good in already, I think, in some cases. And I think the 2 commands on one boat is a little bit win more in some cases. Those games where you're already in a good position, you can just wait a turn. It helps the Thunder Alpha, but then it kind of leaves the frigate needing a 9 with a reroll. So it stops the whole I'm going to use everything turn 1, because then you are, ironically, taking a risk at that point. So you're with the 3d6, pretty much not a guarantee, but you'll bank on that. Whereas I'd never want to bank a game, a high stakes game on a 9 with a reroll on 2d6.
Yeah, I mean, it helps to get the Thunderers in position, and especially the Chemist out of the boat, if you want to fly high with the Ironclad and then disembark them all.
Yeah.
Because the Chemist needs to be outside of the ship to give his buff. What you could do is a Tunnel Master, but I think just from leadership of the Alpha, from 3 units with all attack, you just get so much
I actually didn't realize until after the event that the Admiral could do his buff in the boat.
From inside? Yeah.
I read it as mustn't be in a sky vessel, but it says mustn't be a sky vessel. I think my head just went one way with it.
It's kind of weird that they've done them both differently anyway, to be honest. It's like they sort of started and then they added restrictions. And
I think with the Admiral being 1 use only, I think that's the...
Yeah.
I think it's a good change, the Chemist. I think it needing to be out of the boat, because it adds a little bit of play to it.
It's just too easy. Do it every turn. Extra rend. Extra... Why bother? To just give them extra rend. Okay, cool.
And then the last thing was more just for everyone sort of following along, is I assume that the way you were loading up the boats was the Admiral and the Chemist and the Thunderers and the Ironclad, and then the 2 units of Endriggers and Brock in the frigate, or were you sometimes putting 1 unit of Endriggers in the Ironclad?
Sometimes, because you can if you're giving away the turn, you can split them and then act normally anyway by getting out, getting in, and so most of the time it was 2 distinct threats.
Okay, cool. Max, any questions before we move on? I don't think there's any questions in the chat. Although it does look like Fabian's in the chat, who we should point out has also gone 5-0 with the exact same list. Is there a story behind that?
It's just straight plagiarism.
Straight plagiarism.
It's so bad that I even told him the changes that I'd make after the event, and he didn't listen.
But he's saying in the chat he taught you everything you know, so we'll see.
Oh yeah.
Cool. So let's move on then. If I can find my mouse, it's actually gone to sleep. There we go. Cool. So the first game was against Fyreslayers. And quickly, Max, do you want to? Because you're the Fyreslayers expert. Tell us all about this list.
Okay. Played by Paul Bowden. Sorry. Fyreslayers from Greyfield, so extra artifacts, extra wound on the heroes, which is pretty good, and I think the way to go in the current edition of the GHP with all the Galician champions. Masters of the Forge is a very strong grand strategy, because you don't have a priest in your list. Means if they get their invocation out, and it stays there until the end of the game, they score it. Indomitable Triumph, which is interesting pick. 1970 points, so no one got that one. 10 drops, 152 wounds, but actually many more wounds because of wards and so on, and rally. Heroes, we have a lot because they are better in Graveyard. We have a Runefather, Spirit of Grimnir, means that their special rune effect procs on a 5 instead of a 6. And the Axe of Grimnir gives him an extra rend and extra damage on his weapon, which is pretty scary. A Flamekeeper is a buff unit with the Tunnel Master aspect, so he can be where he needs to be. Another Flamekeeper with an Arcane Tome and Ghost Mist, so that's an interesting pick. We have a Rune Master who knows all the prayers from the book, so he can choose the generic one, heal. In addition, we have a Rune Smiter who can tunnel with a second unit and has the Ember Storm, the run and charge prayer. A Battlesmith, obviously Nulcidian Icon is the top pick for him. It's a spell ignore, not so important against you, but it is the best pick. It's the best spell defense they have and always had. And he's fueled by Girth Rage, so he can stand back up just because he's so important for the list, and he gives him the 4-up rally in 18 inches because he's on totem. Battle line, 2x10 Hearthguard Berserkers, one with Broadaxe, one with Poleaxes, so he has the versatility whatever he faces, either mortal wounds or rend and damage. 10 Volkite Berserkers with Sling Shields and a big block of 30 Volkites with Firesteel Hand Axes, which I believe are in, and the Galician Veteran battalion, so they can fight from 2 ranks, and that's on the charge with some extra buffs they can get. That's a lot of attacks they put out. Not so much rend, but a lot of attacks with a lot of damage from the Flamekeepers. They can buff that. And they have Fight on Death, which is also interesting. So your strike first is not as valuable because they can trade with a strike on death, basically. And the Molten Inferno, also very good. Invocation, just those mortal wounds, jumps around, block a big base to block people.
Huge range.
Double
as
Warlord.
well. I didn't realize.
Huge range because he has the Volatile Brazier, so he can pull it out, double the range, and he can re-roll the prayer roll. So that's pretty good. It's pretty good. I think it's 24 inches and it moves 2d6. So pretty good.
Pretty much anywhere then.
Yeah, no, it's very strong because he can pull it out and then he can move it either to block you, or you can do a lot of mortal wounds to your heroes turn 1, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
Battalions, double Warlord, and the Veterans and the Warlord. One is used for the extra aspect, and basically almost everyone gets an artifact. In this army, which is and they have fantastic artifacts. So that's pretty good. Looking at this, I'd say the Hearthguard are not as a problem for you because you can remove the ward and then there's just naked dwarves on a 5-up save. But the 30 Volkite Berserkers,
to one of the units.
So this
you can do it to one, but Volkite Berserkers, 30 of them. That's tough.
They so one of the things that I was umming and ahhing about before the event was whether to go 1-drop or to take a second artifact and then have sharpshooters, which would have been completely the correct pick against this list, but alas. So we played Hours for the Taking. So my theory going into this was just to deploy aggressive, but not super, because he hasn't got that much range. Sort of measure the threat ranges out and sit just outside them. And then pick of the turn would be based on what he was to tunnel with the smiter. And he chose to put 10 Volkites in the ground and deploy everything else on the board, which not sure whether it's the correct pick or not. But I think the 30 can't get any buffs when they come up, so it probably is right. I think you probably do want to put the 30 on the board. So I gave Paul turn 1, and he popped all the 5-up ward save on the banner, ran the 30 into the center, tunneled the 10 into the top left, just on the edge of his terrain near the mystical. And then the father, and the 10, I can't remember which weapons they had, but 10 of them sat on my home objective. So he was like, I'm just going to sit on the points and see what you can do. But because he'd moved the 30 into the center, I could essentially just shoot them off. They were picked as the +1 to wound target. I burst grenaded them because I think actually getting rid of the 5-up ward from the banner was more important than the 4-up ward on the 10-man units. Especially since three of the characters were within an inch of the 30, but not within an inch of anything else. So that was 2 Flamekeepers and the banner. And essentially, through shooting the 30 down without the ward, he also failed to cast Mystic Shield, which was quite big. Killed the 30 with enough spare shots to kill one of the Flamekeepers. And then the 3d6 charge from the boat took out the other Flamekeeper and the banner. And through the Gurish Rage as well, which then tied up the Hearthguard that were kind of hovering around the back. And from that point, it was kind of done. It was always going to be a close game because he was always up on objectives. But I was just moving around to make sure he had to move them. Once his priests were dead, made sure that he had to move the Inferno off every turn if he wanted a chance to win. And at some point, he might roll a double. It disappears and it denies his grand strategy. Something we didn't talk about. My grand strategy of Rule the Skies. I don't know whether you guys agree, but I think it's just the auto pick.
If you have 2 boats, yes.
Yeah, I think because there aren't that many flying behemoths that you're that bothered about these days.
Actually, there's quite a few. I did a list the other day, and there's quite a few, but not many of those you see day to day.
So the game was, I can't remember the exact score. I think there was 4 or 5 points in it. So it was a reasonably close game. But again, I knew that going in. It's a lot of wounds to get through. We played all the turns, so it wasn't a, I'm going to do enough damage to you that you don't want to carry on or anything. And yeah, it was a smallish win. I think it was a comfortable small win. Which was nice because the Fyreslayers was one of the games that I wasn't too keen on. What I didn't want to do is shoot him down so that 4-up rally then ruins my day. So everything went into the 60, and then I managed to get the banner as well, which then it solved that problem. And then I think the Hearthguard, because they're only 5-up save base.
Yes.
Even though they have got the 4-up ward, you do get through them.
Yeah, and they only get it wholly within 9, so sometimes they're a bit out of. If you kill one hero, then they're out of range. Or and I think he only has 1 hero that can nominate a retinue. So
yes,
the thing I would be most concerned going into a game like this would be their ability to charge me in the combat phase.
Yeah, so
he starts shooting them. They're gonna go up to 6 points immediately on their Flamekeepers, and then you have 2 Hearthguard Berserker units flying into your boats.
I think Paul didn't anticipate the damage. So he didn't double wrap his Flamekeepers. He thought the 30 was going to be enough to block the shots into them. I think it was Brock in the end that finished one of them off, and then the charge finished the other one. Because my key thing was if I can kill the Flamekeepers and the banner, and he just offered them to me a little bit too easy, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Then did you get the double? 1
no.
and 2?
No, I didn't. I didn't have a single double turn all weekend.
Oh,
spoiler alert! But no doubles. The dream never manifested.
Okay. Well. Yeah, I think can be tough, but on this battle plan where they need to stretch out a bit. With your superior mobility, that definitely helps. You can pick your encounters and your targets.
Yeah. The problem, I suppose, because it's not a 1-2 more scenario. You actually get quite far up on points early on. So I was then like, I could use the mobility to kill stuff, but I also needed to make sure I was scoring.
Because he would have scored 7 turn 1, which is, it was quite.
Yeah, and they can easily do battle tactics. They're like KO. They have easy battle tactics. So that's the problem with this battle plan is if you leave them and you don't take out one threat, then take out the next threat, you end up being 21 points behind. easily.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always going to be
Yeah.
a close game.
Did you? I didn't quite catch at the beginning. Did you retake your home objective turn 1?
No, I ignored it
No.
completely.
You ignored it. Then so because
So
you shot everything into the 30 guys in the middle and charged everything into the middle as well.
Yeah, I actually don't think I scored a point other than battle tactic turn 1 because the frigate charged the characters that were just off the objective.
Right.
But the play was to just make sure that the crackback wasn't that impactful, and then I could worry about it later.
Yeah.
Knowing that I always had the grand strat in the bag in this game was quite helpful.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I definitely got any more questions. So if you haven't, we'll just move on, Max.
Sure.
Cool. So the next game was against Nighthaunt. So
all that rend.
yes. So we're just
it helps in one specific part of this.
Yes. So you're against Matthew Goldsborough.
Yeah.
His list was 2,000 points, so you would have got your triumph on this one, but he was also 1 drop.
Yeah.
But did you say you won both your?
So I won the turn roll.
You won the priority, which is important. So he had a Quel'Gar's Cruciate as his general, with Arcane Tome and Spell Law Seal of Shaiish. He was also fueled by Garish Rage to keep him alive for longer. Then he had the Big Daddy himself, Nagash, with all his books, Spirit Torment, and a unit of 20 Dreadscythe Harridans, a unit of 10 Dreadscythe Harridans, 2 units of 10, sorry, a unit of 10 Chainras, and the Umbral Spell Portal. So a lot different to what you faced before, because you go from 150 something wounds to like 70, 77.
Them,
yeah. And what this was on position over power. So how did you have any sort of key concerns when you saw the list, or other than the fact that the rend was going to be useless?
Not against Nagash.
Let's use.
So I was obviously super conscious of Hand of Dust on the boats,
right?
And things, but because I won the roll off, and especially in this very specific mission, like that he cannot screen Nagash.
Because the deployment zones are relatively small. So.
Yeah, and it's 9 away from center as well. So essentially, I just frontlined both boats. And it's like, okay, here's the question: have you got the answer to it? And he deployed the Cruciator and just the Cruciator in the Night Realms or whatever, the Graves, the Night Realms, the Shadows. I think with the assumption that he would just come on the flank objective, start scoring the 2 points. Because the Cruciator ability against me isn't that useful. So
it works against shooting, but you need to be terrified, so you need to be in combat with him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So theory here is, knowing that I had the Triumph, was just to pick Nagash as the +1 target, just to force him to Finest Hour turn 1. And then just pop the Triumph and split fire with everything and basically kill everything else. He couldn't get far enough back to screen Nagash and stop me being able to knock the ward off the 20. So because he was CP light, I moved up, sort of ironclad straight down the center of the board, and the frigate around the left-hand side, just hovering around that mystical, just in case. And the first shot was ironclad. Was like, okay, I'll split fire. Cannon's going to go into Nagash, everything else into the units. 1 hit with the cannon, wounded. He failed his save. I got 6 wounds through. So I'm like, okay. Killed a few other bits. Like, okay, we'll do the frigate next. Frigate, 2 cannons into Nagash, and then split fire with everything else. 1 hit, cannon, 1 wound, failed save, 5 wounds. Okay.
5 to go.
And then Thunderous shot and just obliterated so much of the stuff in front of them. And then Brock kind of like, sod it, everything of Brock into Nagash. And he killed Nagash with the shield. So slightly lucky, but I think had Nagash survived, it would have just been Nagash left. Yeah, my turn 1, I killed the 20, the 10 chain rasps, and Nagash. So yeah, the Spirit Torment and 10 dudes. And that was it. That was one of those, like, my turn 1 was so good that the game's over.
Okay.
So we played it out. He won a double, but that was it then. Yeah, it was one of those where I played for and got, kind of, but again, it wasn't a conscious decision or thought to kill Nagash. It just kind of happened by accident, which is a nice accident.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But it wasn't really much of a game, this one. I don't know how it would have gone had Nagash survived. I think I've killed enough stuff that it doesn't make too much of a difference.
Would have been your plan had you lost a roll-off?
So a little insight into my brain. I don't think too much up until I need to make a decision. So I don't know is the answer. If you were to put me on the spot, I would say there's every chance that I just put things on the front line anyway. Because what I don't want to do is baseline and for him to give me the turn. Because then without the ability to do the fly high get out with the Thunderers, although it's not that much of a big deal in this matchup, I think you kind of want to be out of the boat just in case you get wrapped. I still would have probably played it the same so that he would have had to take the turn and just see what happens. Maybe try and unbind the portals with the heroic action. Worth a go, right?
Okay.
So on your first turn, am I right to assume you didn't go get anything onto the flank objectives?
No.
Just went purely for killing. Yeah.
Just went for the kill. Yeah, again, because
straight in down the throat.
Yeah, it was just one of those again. If I can do enough damage early on, that I should be able to win by a point.
Yep.
Yeah, they can't score points if they haven't got anything on the board. So
exactly. And I think that's a valid strategy against these big god monster unit armies. Like either you kill them, or if they put a Mystic Shield and the Finest Star, then you just ignore them for a turn and kill everything else that can score. Because it's still one model. It cannot be everywhere at once.
Yeah. Did he Finest out Nagash?
Yes. Yeah.
And did he all out defense Nagash as well?
He did. Yep.
Okay. He got did very bad.
He did. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 2 out of 2 3-ups was. And then for me, rolling max damage as well.
Yeah. Cool.
As you should. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, that just shows your 13 years of experience.
Got that dice rolling action, the wrist action down to
D3+3 and D3+2 on the go.
Yeah, cool. I don't think there's much else to talk about with that game then. So the next game was against Lumineth, which is an interesting matchup. Playing against JP Stevens in Helon. So he was also 1-drop, but we know you won the roll off. So he had Teclis as his general. He had Kafalar with the silver one, Speed of Heish, and Tunnel Master. 2 units of 5 wind charges, a unit of 10 wardens with overwhelming heat, and 2 units of 20 sentinels. Which is
what you get when you buy the army box, right? You just buy the book and it just all comes in one handy package.
Yeah. Oh, I guess we should mention the end of spells. The way it's spell portal, Rune of Petrification, and Burning Head. But yeah, lots of shooty sentinels and Teclis and
teleporting Kafalar. It's gonna throw spells at you. Interestingly, only Burning Head. Some people play this with the Jaws of whatever it is.
Ravanax.
Searching Jaws.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a great matchup if you have an auto unbind. Because you just stop the teleport.
How
did you approach this?
So this is the one matchup that I had thought about beforehand, just because you see this list everywhere. It's something that if you want to win a singles event and somebody's there with it, you've likely got to beat it. And the theory behind it was to sort of threaten Teclis, but then try and kill everything else. And hope that Teclis can't do you on his own, which almost happened. So JP deployed half an army in each corner. So he had Sentinels. So he had the side with the arcane building, so he was defender. So he had 20 Sentinels, 5 wind chargers, and then 10 Wardens in that building. And then Teclis and the other 20 sat around the other piece of terrain. Again, so I'd won the roll off. I deployed super aggressive, and he deployed a little bit too far forward with the Teclis side, because I think he wanted to screen Teclis. Thinking that I was going to go for Teclis. I may have been in his ear about that a little bit. I may have been sort of saying, I'm going to kill him turn 1. I'm going to kill him. So he deployed to screen him. Still picked Teclis as the +1 to wound, because I think I had a triumph in this one.
Yes, you did. Yep.
Yeah. So essentially, the clad moves up, gets out. I don't think everything was in range, but enough was in range to kill the 20 Sentinels, and then the frigate flew high, killed the Sentinels and the wind chargers with the combination of the shooting and the charging. And then so it was just Teclis on the Teclis and 10 Sentinels and 3 wind chargers. The JP won the double turn. And almost beat me with just those models.
Yeah, Teclis is scary.
Rune of Petrification plus the Teclis spell on the boat is it's pretty horrendous.
Yep.
The 10 Sentinels, 10 Wardens in the building were just sat there within 3 of 2 of my units for 3 consecutive combat phases, just stabbing them out of the window with 5 mortal wounds, which is so frustrating. I think I probably could have positioned the charge a little bit better or piled in differently with something. But it essentially led me to not have an awful lot left. But again, I think I won. The score probably didn't reflect how close this game actually was. But when he won the double into 2, it was ropey, just because of the amount of mortals.
Yes.
I think he was a little bit unlucky to not kill the Admiral, which then, because the free CPs are so good against the what's the spell? The
Total Eclipse.
Total Eclipse, yes.
Thank you. Yeah, because you get the. So yeah, another thing I played wrong all weekend is I didn't realise that I got a free CP on the Thunderers with Grundstock.
Yeah.
I thought it just made in battle line. So I was obviously you get the free on the flagship and things like that. Yeah, JP deployed probably slightly too far forward, and then, but I think if he goes so far back, I might be able to give him the turn.
Yeah.
Especially because he deployed in 2 separate corners, so I think he probably had to do it that way. So yeah, it was a sizable win, but a close game.
I mean that's how I would deploy against him if he had choice. So he can Technado my entire army.
Yeah, just half of it.
Both sides. Yeah.
Absolutely.
One hugging the mystical, and the other one on the other edge. Yeah.
Yeah. It's because again, when he did that, I didn't know then whether to go just all in on one side. But I think going in on the side that Teclis isn't, I kill it all, but I don't kill enough that makes a difference in the game. Whereas if I go for the Teclis side and I don't kill him, and my entire army's within range of all of the AoEs, it's not good.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Which objective did he activate?
Oh, now you're
Question.
asking.
The one, like, was he using that to bait you to come to where he
I
wanted you
think
to go?
he activated the one that forced me towards the side that Teclis wasn't.
Okay. Did he?
But again, I
find
didn't
his power
score it. So.
checklist?
Did he? No, he didn't.
Okay.
So I also shot a cannon at him to try and get him to use the Aether Quartz as well, but he didn't take the bait. Which is a shame. Which meant then, when he won the double and could do it afterwards, was like he played really well. Just maybe deployed a little bit too aggressive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Any questions, Max?
Well
Anything
done.
in the chat?
Well, winning again, it's the pure skill of winning those 1-drop roll-offs.
Yeah.
If you take anything away from today.
Yeah, and you also get the like the moral victory, because obviously his list is illegal now with the new points changes.
Very true.
Yeah, so you get the moral victory winning against that as well.
Yeah.
Cool. So moving on to round 4 on day 2. First of all, did they announce the matchups like the night before, or did you find out in the morning?
Find out in the morning. Yeah. So the way that Richie and I both agree with this. I don't like pre-announced anything, because I don't think although he did pre-announce round 1, but that was only to test the pairing software that he was using.
Right.
I don't think there should be a difference in prep time between games. Like if you know your round 1, you've got more time to think about it than the other games. Because I don't think about it, I'm quite impulsive. I don't mind it. So yeah, we didn't find out. So the software, they paired randomly within the wins brackets. So because there were no tie breaks recorded other than 4 right at the end, so everyone that was 3-0 overnight was in the same pot. And I think there was 5. So one person was being paired down, and then
because there's no tie breaks, no one can sort of you can't try and anticipate who you're going to be.
Exactly. It was great because you go out for an evening meal. I was with 2 of the people that were 3-0. It was like fine, and just see what happens.
Getting them drunk. Okay.
Yeah, it just means when you go out on that night, you have to try and get everyone drunk, not just one person.
Yeah, exactly. It cost a lot of money, that.
Okay. So you're up against Nurgle. And Paul Scott played Befouling Host. 1980 points and 8 drops. So this time you actually got your triumph and the priority without having to.
You didn't have to roll this one.
So he had a lot of stuff. He basically had loads of Beasts of Nurgle. Sloppy Bile Piper, Lord of Afflictions, Horticulus, Plague Priest. Plague Priest is it technically an ally in this, or can it say got?
No, it's
no, it's
coalition.
Coalition. Yeah. Okay. And Gutrot Spoon. One of the units of beasts. So unit 2, 20 Rotmire Creed, and then 3 Nurglings. And it's
just a lot of stuff.
All sorts of stuff.
A lot of
disease and
cycle charging Beast of Nurgle, re-rolling and getting pluses to it from the pick from Horticulus, and Nurglings are just there for a battle tactic. Rotmire Creed are pretty nasty. They have a good ability when they shoot you and they hit 6s. Every one of your units within 6 also gets the disease point.
Everything in your boat takes a disease point.
Yeah. And Floppy is just the general, so he can get the Befouling Host bonus. I think needs a demon general.
Yeah, so he had triple tree turn 1.
Yeah, he needs the extra 3, so he gets more summoning points to summon more Beast of Nurgle.
Yes. So it's just wave after wave after wave of Beast of Nurgle, which are all run in charge and
do mortals on the impact, and then annoy you with attacks.
Yeah.
And of course, every time you're in combat and stuff, you're getting more disease points and
exactly.
Yeah. So the hardest thing in this list was deciding what to pick for my +1 to wound.
Because
the Rotmire Creed were off the table, so it was like I'll pick the 2 beasts,
Mhm.
You
It's
can.
like seems like
So from what I understand, you can still pick units in reserve because it doesn't say on the battlefield. It just says in your opponent's army.
Mhm.
oh, okay, interesting.
That's how I
Yeah.
understand it, at
Yeah.
least. Prove.
I
Yeah.
didn't. I must
Happy
admit,
to
I
be
didn't
proven wrong.
read it specifically. I when I think maybe I'm just looking at it from the same way as the battle tactics, where
Yeah.
it's something that if you're
Yeah,
picking
yeah,
something, it has to be on the table, but they all specify.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe you're right.
Yeah.
I'm being shown up
I
here for not
don't
knowing
know,
anything
Lee,
about
how
this.
you interpret this, but that's how I see it.
To be
No, I
honest,
think you're
I've
more
read it
likely
in that
right
much
than I am.
detail because I've only ever used the Rally one so far, which
Let me just.
will probably change that.
But also
going
the
forward,
Rockmire, they're only like a 6 up armor save, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway.
After deployment, but before the first battle round begins, pick one enemy unit.
Yeah.
Add 1 to wound rolls for attacks.
Okay.
Paper
So
from your field,
I'd say if it
that
just
target
says
unit.
pick one enemy unit, you can pick something that's not on the table.
Okay,
It's also
that makes the
awkward 'cause-
beast matchup better.
Yeah, if you pick the like a hero, like it's quite easy for them to summon heroes as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah, it's either Haughty or the 2 beasts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
but the
think in
beasts,
this list. What did you pick in the end? Sorry.
I picked the 2 beasts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
those or Horticulus, because he's the buff
Yeah.
piece, and he's
Mhm.
unique, so I don't think you can summon him.
no, correct.
Okay. Yeah.
But the beasts were slightly terrifying because if memory serves, if they charge, they do impact hits to everything
Yes.
within 1 inch.
Yes.
Yes, and they do mortal
Mhm.
wounds. Yeah.
So a couple of those charging a boat is all of a sudden some scared characters.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, and then you start getting disease on the characters as well, and then it's
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, I think ultimately though this was it just wasn't a great matchup for him.
Mhm.
And the scenario was in my favor because my battle tactics are better than his.
Mhm. Yeah, we should put this. So you're on Path of the Champion, which is the one where if you control an objective with a Galician champion on the objective that's outside of your territory at the start of your hero phase, then you can pick 2 battle tactics. So you
Yes,
can't
so
do
this-
turn 1.
This is the one where you score 9 battle tactics with KO.
Yeah, which is what I did.
Because
Yeah.
they are hilariously good.
So yeah, this was just a little bit of a mismatch. The one thing I was slightly scared about was if I misallocate when splitting fire into the beasts and leave all of them on a
Ooh.
wound.
Yeah, and they heal back.
Yeah, they
Start
heal.
of round.
So I just had to overcommit to everything. So I probably could have killed more than I did in turn 1, but I could also have then killed nothing, and it would have been horrible.
You just want to make sure that they're dead for good. Yeah.
Yeah, so I killed.
Mm.
He kind of deployed half the army on one edge and half on the other, so I just went one way instead of trying to hit everything.
Yep.
Get the chemist on the outside objective for the battle tactics, and then just rack the points up. Because I don't with how good the battle tactics are, I don't need to threaten the objectives at that point. But I did because I killed it all by turn 2 or 3.
Okay.
Yeah, you just need to have a hero on one outside your territory, so you can trigger the picking 2 battle tactics.
Yeah, you could just run a single hero up to the
Yeah, I think I just moved the clan over
edge.
to the right-hand side and just got out on that objective, and that was my home with the Thunderers for a few turns.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit of a mismatch. I don't think I used the burst grenade because I could never think of a good time to use it because it was all single models, so I just ended up never using it.
Yeah.
Use it once and save you 2 shots.
Yeah. It's Paul never spiked any ward saves too badly. I didn't. I over allocated to everything, just to make sure that if I wanted something dead, that it died. He misplayed a little bit around the Galician champions and the 1 inch for the beasts. So sometimes I was able to get some shots on characters that I maybe shouldn't have done. But most of the time I took the shots on the beasts anyway because they were the thing that was causing the issue.
Yeah. I found a lot of people get mixed up between the rule for the heroes where they can't be shot mixed up with lookout sir, because
Yeah.
3
lookout
inches
sir is
and-
3 inches,
yeah.
and then the one
They
with
do,
knockout
they
sir is
do,
1
yeah.
inch. So
Yeah.
yeah, quite often catch
Um,
people out on that. They're like, they think they can't be shot, and like, well, I can because you're
Yeah.
2 inches away.
Yeah, and often
Yeah.
if with the beast, if they're within an inch of one, you can often kill that one with something before you shoot the
Yeah.
character with something else.
It's what is it? 8 wounds. A beast, I think.
Yeah. So
It
effectively
was
12 damage,
up
isn't it,
save.
to kill one? No, not quite. 10 and a bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, not an
And,
awful lot to say about this. It was a good scenario for me.
Mhm.
The
I'd
thing
have
is, they're-
preferred this scenario in one of the harder matchups,
Mhm.
just because of
Yeah.
how good it is for the KO.
Yes. Would you have wished that you brought more Galician champions overall, not just in this battle plan, but overall in your list? Maybe a dirigible Endremaster with 12-inch move.
So the dirigible was interesting. I did look at him compared to Brock, but Brock for the extra 50 points, although you lose Galician champion, he's just so much better. And because I was within the 1-drop, I felt that anything I replaced Brock with, character and unit wise, just wouldn't do it.
Okay.
An extra one would be handy, like a navigator, because actually you want the ability to leave a Galician champion on an objective sometimes, whereas the chemist and the admiral are always moving away.
Yes.
Definitely would be handy, but I think it's a toss up. Like I wouldn't have killed Nagash without Brock.
Okay.
I know these are like really results oriented thinking sort of things, but I think it was the correct choice for the weekend, I think.
Mhm.
Even though it looks a bit bizarre on paper.
Well, because one of the things with the dirigible suit guys, if you just ignore their main single shot, his 6 shots are like half as good as Brock because they're only single damage. So
yeah, and his cannon's only D3.
Yes, just
yes,
D3 damage.
Yes,
yeah,
D3. One less sword attack as well.
But
you can take artifacts, but
you can take artifacts, but I think his main benefit is the +1 on the healing roll for the Indian riggers.
Yeah,
that
the other
just
thing
makes
is,
him so better. A unit of 9 just becomes so much better with him.
Him and the Endremaster can actually heal while you're in combat, which the Endremaster.
Yeah, I was going to say that that's the one thing that I was like, oh, the riggers not being able to heal while they're within 3. They help in some games, but not in others.
Yeah,
it's mostly when you park the boat with the Indian riggers behind the ironclad and they take first turn, and for whatever reason they start shooting or targeting your ironclad, you can still heal it.
Yeah.
End of their turn or end of the phase they did damage, and then start of your end of your hero phase, then again and the ironclad's back full.
Yeah. It's the end of their hero phase after they've done some like spells and they go, I'll just heal that.
Shooting phase.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Cool. But yeah, I don't think there's anything. We sort of digressed from this matchup a bit, but let's move on. So going into game 5, how many people were on 4-0?
Just me and Baz.
Okay, so you knew you were.
Yeah.
So Gloomspite Gitz. So Baz was 1950, so he would have got the triumph instead of you, which is important because he actually had 2 triumphs.
Yes.
So you can essentially when he got 2, but it was 7 drops. So you obviously got the choice of who went first. A lot of wounds, 208 wounds. And
the 4-up rally.
Yeah, and the 4-up rally. So he had a Squig Boss as his general, with the clammy hand and a clammy cow and Tunnel Master, all the clammy stuff. Scragrot, because Scragrot's really good, and Kragnos, because Kragnos is really good and gives everything a 3d6 charge. And then 2 units of 36 Squig Herd, a unit of 12 Squig Herd, and a Marsh Crawler, which is the Dobby guy.
Gives +1 to hit within 18 inches. So it's an all-out attack on your entire army. which
And
is
he had,
great, especially for Squigherd, because they cannot get all of the attack.
and the Galician veterans to the Squigherd could all be doing the fighting with extra ranks.
3 ranks. Yeah. So all of them.
So, and Squigherd are really annoying.
They are.
Because
when you've got an elite army, yeah.
Yeah, they do this annoying thing where when they run away, they do mortal wounds to anything within 9 inches that they pick.
So, well, if you shoot them from 9 inches away, you're fine.
Yeah.
But
they can move incredibly quickly.
They can move quickly under the moon or under Skragrod's moon or the shrine. They can run in charge. They can one unit can once per game move in the hero phase thanks to the Squig boss. And then they can
3 units. I think they all can.
Oh.
I think he picks 1 unit.
I've had it played against me with just 1. But I don't know if there's a way of buffing it. But there's also a way of giving them like pluses to movement as well. So you give them bonuses to move,
3 inches,
and then hit
but
them.
You don't choose that. You choose the mortal wounds, obviously. Squiggler gives them a reroll on the charge, and Kragnos gives them a 3d6 charge. So they are in your face turn 1 if they want.
Yes, it is every unit. Once per battle, every unit wholly within 12 makes a normal move.
Okay.
It's every Squig herd, so maybe most
but
people,
most
normal people only has 1 unit.
Good to know. Thankfully, he doesn't have the 5-up ward, so no Snufflers in there. But still, very good. It's a lot of wounds that you need to concern yourself with that do a lot of damage, and then there's Kragnos behind that. Just
the other thing is
charging a boat.
They could bring back half of one of those 36 Squigherd units as well.
They can actually do it
more
to
than
both
once.
because he has the clammy hand, so he can roll twice.
Yeah.
It's not a reroll, but it's do it twice.
Yeah. And this was on the Nidus paths.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I haven't actually looked, but I'm fairly sure there's some shenanigans you could do with KO with this.
Oh, there's absolutely. You can teleport 2 boats.
Yeah. So, funnily, this was my first game against Gitz, which was interesting. Because I'd heard a lot about them. Obviously, they'd won 2 events in a row in the UK. They were doing well all over the place. I hadn't read any of the War Scrolls. So this is the one time I did do a little bit of prep because it kind of mattered at this point. And because I knew I was playing Baz, I sat down and just had a read of the War Scrolls. And then a little funny story before the game started when we were just having a chat. We were talking about Skragrot and the teleport spell. And I was like, oh yeah, and he's a 2-cast wizard, so it means you can do teleport and reroll charges if you want. And he was like, you can't do reroll charges. I'm like, yeah, you can. He's got a spell that does it. He's like, has he? So he didn't know. He had this spell, and I reminded him before the game. I was like, I should have kept my mouth shut on that one. So yeah, this was a really interesting game. So I know going into it, 2 of us 4-0. Whoever wins the event. Nothing can change that. We'll be the only person 5-0. So a little bit of pressure. Especially with the golden ticket on the line and things like that. So Nidus was an interesting one. This is the first time I'd played Nidus because I didn't play much last General's Handbook because we had our little girl in September. So sort of in the run up and the aftermath, I just didn't have time. So I elected not to learn it because I didn't have the brain space and I wasn't playing any games. So I deployed with my Arcanauts. So I was bottom left, I was defender. Arcanauts in a line with triangles at the end between those 2 pieces of terrain. And then, so kind of stretching out so that his 9 inches, if he wanted to teleport, were about 11, 12 inches away from the boats. Which would, if he rolls the big charge, there's nothing I can do about that. But he's not hitting me with everything. And if he's that far away, he's not getting his +1 to hit and things like that. So kind of just draw him away from the buffs. Deployed with the Ironclad in the corner with the frigate next to it. threatening the double teleport. So I can fly high with one, I can Nidus path the other. Where are you going to go? You've got a lot of stuff, but you can't be everywhere, and you've got buffs that you need to be in range of. He opted to do Desecrate turn 1 on the mystical bit with the 10 Squig Herd, and then teleported one of the 36s in front of me and charged the 10 Arcanauts. I didn't make sure I was in range to unleash hell because that would have just been too dangerous. So like, you can have the Arcanauts, I'll deal with them another time.
Yeah.
The actual plan going into this was to try and split fire on the Squigs to the point where he
needs to use the Triumph. Yeah.
So yes, to burn the Triumph straight away, but also to try and leave him with a couple of handlers instead of killing the unit. Like, I don't mind you bringing 2d3 back. I'd rather that and you be there, because his terrain piece, because of how the territories were, was within 12 inches of every single objective. So if a unit's dead on a 4-up, it's just contesting an objective. But I kind of over delivered on the shooting and killed one of the units straight away. But by threatening everything that I did, he took the top left objective with one of the 36s. Kragnos came down to the bottom right one, and then everything else was sort of in my territory. Scraggy and the Squig Boss were hiding near the terrain within Squig Boss within an inch of the handlers for the 36 that were sort of tailed back. And Dobby was just chilling somewhere within 18 inches of stuff. But what he didn't do was leave a screen behind, because he didn't have anything to leave, really. So my turn 1, the Ironclad just nudged forward like an inch to get all the Thunderers within range to shoot the 36 that were in my territory. But the frigate could fly high behind him. And then with Brock's shots and the frigate shots killed Scraggy and Dobby. And then the 3d6 charge got into the Squig Boss as well, which meant the Squig Boss died to the combat. I did then lose like that entire boat's worth of stuff to that unit of Squigs exploding. Just like nothing I could do about that. I've got to take it at some point. But that then took away his clammy, so he didn't have the double rolls on getting things back. And then there was kind of the and ahhing about Kragnos, because he killed the frigate, and I had the opportunity to let him charge the Ironclad with Kragnos, but with the Thunderers in front, so that I could do the last word, stand and shoot, the whole shebang with the Supremacy Mine and things like that. And we were umming and ahhing about whether to go for it. So I just took stock at that point. This is end of turn 3. I was like, okay, so if I just sit in a corner and do absolutely nothing, and you do everything you want to do, because you've got no battle tactics left to do or anything like that, we worked out that if he rolls a 4-up, he gets one. We draw on points, but I've done more battle tactics, so I get a minor win. If he doesn't roll the 4-up, I win by a point, get a major win. So we just, at that point, we shook, because we didn't need to play for anything else other than knowing who won the game. I didn't need to take any risks, because we'd sort of worked it out, and that was that. It was super close. It was 1918 or something along those lines. My denying his grand strategy by killing the guy under the moon, and me having my grand strategy by keeping the boat alive, not taking the risk to kill Kragnos to try and score a few more points that I didn't need to, was enough to take it. And it was just one of those things where we both had a really good game. We just talked it out towards the end. It was like, there's nothing you can do if I don't want to engage you, because you only have Kragnos left. So it's either going to be a minor win or a major win to me, and that's all we need to know at that point. But yeah, he didn't roll the 4-up, and I got the major. But
yeah.
So yeah, that was it. That was the event.
Okay. Cool. I don't really got any questions about the game. I guess
The squigs die so quickly to the shooting.
Yeah, they have a 6-up save. They cannot all-out
Yeah.
defend, so just any shots
Yeah.
go through.
No, I mean the play with them is to try and just get them into combat stuff. So even if you kill them, you just take a load of more wounds when they run away.
Yeah. I was slightly concerned about whether or not to let him charge and then do an unleash hell on if I depleted some of the unit, because if you kill enough of them, but then I think if he was clever, he just takes the handlers off.
Yeah, there's a point where you decide to just take off the handlers because you say, okay, I'm not going to save these. I just want more attacks. But often people they cling to I want to keep these 6 handlers, and there's no squigs left to run away to do mortal wounds.
Yeah,
it's just four handlers left, and then they can roll it, but it's going to get them 6 squig back. That's why I think this list, Kragnos is scary, but on the map you can, as you did, you can just evade him. It gets difficult when they bring the other guy, the Grinkrak, that lets them fight on death. Then you need to shoot him first, and then shoot the unit.
Yeah,
but
he's
still,
unique though, isn't he? So
he's unique. You can always shoot him.
Yeah.
And he needs to be within 3 inches start of combat. Yeah.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah. So well done.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's one of those, like, I think I played well over the weekend, but there's also some very key things that went my way. But I think that's how you win an event, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, as you said, no practice beforehand. You misplayed some rules to your detriment.
Very much so.
Even better.
It's
a testament of your skill. Playing a bit
or the
with
power
less
of the
tools.
list, or a bit of both.
I
also think it was kind of the right army for the time, because it's an alpha list that people hadn't played against much.
Yes, I think that's always I call new book phenomena. People still need to figure out. We're currently seeing, I think, win rates for KO at single events around 63%, depending on which stats you like to.
It's one of the things interesting, because
but that will come down eventually.
The pre-game conversations that I had with all my opponents that played a lot against the other books kind of went the way that I think a lot of people, when they first read the book, is actually, God, it's worse than it used to be, because the boats are so much less flexible. Everything's a command ability now and things like that. Like, it doesn't feel like it, because you've got so many command points, and you still have the once per game stuff. And I've always said, if you once per game is all that needs to happen if it wins you the game. You don't need to do it twice if once is enough.
Yeah, it's just choosing the right moment to do it. Which is turn 1 by the sounds of it.
Pretty much turn 1 every time. Yeah, it was that was the theory going in, was shock and awe. Let's just see what we can do turn 1, and then if we need to run away for the rest of the game, we will do. But there's certain things, again, I'm like learning more and more about the book as I'm playing more games with it. Like, I never realized that you could redeploy into boats.
Oh yes, especially with leadership of the alpha. You redeploy one unit into the boat, you redeploy the next one into the boat, and then you redeploy the boat. They cannot charge you.
It's one of those. I'm learning more and more about the book. I don't know whether that would have made a great deal of difference in any of the games that I played then, but it certainly would make a difference in some of the closer games.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few trickeries that you can do with the book.
Yeah.
Personally, I love the new book. Yes,
I think it's great.
Ranges on shooting, but now you play in 3 or 4 phases instead of just the one.
Yeah, I agree. It's it's not as auto, like there's no hero phase move, drop the purple sun, run away, shoot you.
But none of the newer books have that. Yes, we've seen the all dragons and all flies, but that was the obvious things. And then we saw people with the Rock Coven list doing mortal wounds through endless spells, and that worked fantastically. So even for those books, there's plays.
I've spent more time with the KO book than I have with most other books, just because I like the fact that there's such a varied amount of lists that you can do within a framework of like 12 war scrolls. Like I think there's a few more than 12, but it feels like everything is usable. and there are tons and tons of different ways to build it.
Yeah, maybe not Thunderix privateers, but
Oh, I never used them. Those walk
Apart
on
from
warbands.
It's just a chemist, isn't it? And some
Yeah,
and
It's just
a-
more
an
expensive
extra
chemist.
actually it's cheaper because he gets your hero plus extra dudes.
Yeah,
Alternative
but
Thunderers and
he
Skyward.
doesn't actually have now. He doesn't actually have the key thing, which is what the chemist, the actual Ren buff. So
No. What does he even do?
I don't know. He gets a ward if he's near those guys, and I think he can buff them. But it's rubbish.
Just looking at the chat, Fry 2300. Was there any point in any game that Regiment Norgrim's Rune Throng would have come in handy? Or is it truly unjustifiable to bring them with KO? You'll have to remind me. I think they count as 2 on an objective.
What they can do
Yeah.
is if they contest an objective, he strikes his rune and they all get a 5-up ward and count
Oh,
as
it's
2.
Yeah.
So they're kind of an anvil unit, but they're
Like-
pricey. Or a 200.
maybe very specifically in certain matchups, but I can't see you taking them over things that benefit from the KO rules.
Yeah, I think you can make Thunderers very defensively with a Mystic Shield. And
Yeah.
if you want to bring an allied or a mercenary priest, you want to go Frame for the prayer, for the Immortal Wound prayer, which is good.
Yeah, that's it. Just again, that's just another one of those things that is on a 3-up, and I didn't want to bank on it. It does.
3-up.
It does seem good.
Take him next to a Mystical, so 2-up. And it's 16-inch range, so you can do it, send him off,
Yeah.
and then he can run up behind and do it next turn again. But it is, I still need to figure out Fring. I love Fring. I love the theme of the Skyport, since I play all the Dispossessed and Fyreslayers as well. But it's others are just better.
I think so. How have you found? Have you played much with Mornar?
No, I'm not a
Prawn has
scummy pirate.
Matt, we've had on the show a lot, is very keen on Mornar.
Yeah, but he's a narrative game.
I
think Kron did well with his 2x15 Thunders in Mornar, but I kept telling him it's better in Urbaz.
Yeah, so I'm using it this weekend in Urbaz.
Yeah, and I know you're playing that at Blood Type.
Yeah, very similar list.
I've seen the list, and I think it's the right choice. Yeah,
Mornar, I just find any clever player can play around it because you have to be issuing within 12.
The issue exactly. It is great when it happens. Like, no, you cannot rally because you're within 12 of these dudes here that you forgot about, or you cannot auto defense when I shoot you. But often, or more often than not, it will not have that much of an impact. I think.
Yeah,
and it's still only on a 5+ anyway, so it's
I mean, throughout the game and all the command points that we throw around, will happen.
But once you factor in them trying to play around it, the few times where they sort of don't manage to play around it, then you've got to still roll the 5+.
I also think I think a lot of people, because of the way that the KO book plays, a lot of people play around it accidentally. It's like they won't even make a conscious decision to do it, but their general will be 18 inches away from you and within range of their stuff. And I'm the sort of person that if they issue it, if they have a character that can issue it outside of range, I'll always make sure that they're going to do it with that one. I'd never go, gotcha, I'm going to roll the 5-up or something like that. It's so.
Yeah.
I don't think it's one of those. I don't think it's that good.
I think maybe if you go full combat alpha, like you're in his face with Skywards and frigates.
Yeah.
Maybe because it denies an auto defense or inspiring presence and so on. But
I think if you could play it in most lists if you just ran a gun hauler and just turbo moved it straight into them. You're like, look, it's just going to sit around you. You've got to deal with it, or it's stopping your command abilities.
Yeah, or a tunnel master, like a little hero on tunnel master, and you just put a 32mm base somewhere in the middle of his army and say, well, listen, you're not issuing any command points here. Could be great against Ossiarch Bone Reapers. With all their
with all those
we've seen the new book, but overall I think there's, which is also maybe due to the book is so good it works in all these Skyports. Like you could make a good Mornar list, I'm sure, You could do well.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you can use the same list in like 3 or 4 different skyports, and all
Which
of
is
them
fantastic.
have. Yeah,
Fantastic. It gives you so much freedom. Yeah.
Unless you do want to go one drop, and then it's
Yeah.
that
If
gets
you
very
want, or you
difficult.
go one boat, then you can. Still
yeah. You can still do one drop without the double boat. Like I was looking at going,
Just need a bridge.
but then you lose the burst grenade because you have to take bridge for the other unit of Thunderers. It's still a thing, but I don't think it's as good as the higher drop or this version of the list.
You could. Hi, James. What you could do is also get a gun holder with compartments and stick the 6 ender riggers in there, and the 1500s in the ironclad. Do something with that. There's ways, but as we alluded before, so at one point you don't have enough units to spend the points and stay within a battle regiment.
No,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
the thing. Yeah, you end up at like 1900 points, and you're like, okay, I've got all my heroes, I've used all my reinforcements.
Yeah, I've
used all my
I've got
troops
30
slots.
Arcanauts.
Yeah, there's
Although-
like nothing you can do.
Interestingly, I did say after this event that this exact list, if you just dropped 3 Endrin riggers and you just played 100 and odd points under, I don't think it's considerably worse, but also guaranteeing the triumph and also guaranteeing Gitz don't get there Indomitably is huge. So I think there is a world where you play it at like 1850. Or just put like some Aether Wings in, play it like 1910 or something like that.
Yeah, I'll need to see how many points the new Gitz with the new points now go to, if they're still 1940 or if there might be 1960 instead.
Yeah, I thought so interesting.
Yeah,
I thought
denying that
1970.
is wrong.
I thought 1970 would be a good triumph bid, but a lot of armies at the event just were under.
1950, 1940.
Yeah. Okay.
So my current list is at 1945, and I'm still not sure if I'll get it because there's quite a few 1940s.
Yeah. Which is crazy, isn't it? It's like a race to the bottom. Like
it is,
Yeah.
but what
the points?
Like I look at it, and what am I gonna get for 55 points? Nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'd rather
even what you
have
get
a
for
triumph.
120 points, like 3 riggers. Oh, okay,
3
they're
riggers,
all right.
or you get a navigator, okay, or an encounter with an auto.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe, but.
Although there are times when you're like, I just wish I just had that one unit just to go over there and like sit there. Like
one thing I was super guilty of was never splitting up the boats. Never splitting up the units within the boats. Like the plan was bubbles in the frigate, everything else in the ironclad, and I'll be damned if I'm doing anything different. And they're both following around.
Yeah.
Objectives be damned. Just going to crack on. Play the same way.
It's a quick movement phase. You just move to boats.
Yeah.
Be done with it. Saves you time.
Yeah.
There was a question earlier on in the chat that I wanted to pick up, which is, I think we basically already know the answer to, but me and Max know the answer to, and maybe some people that have been seeing what you've been doing in other tournaments too. But it's basically, would a navigator be better than a chemist in a new list for the unbind chance and possibly mortals with movement shenanigans? I think the answer is maybe a navigator would be good, but not instead of the chemist.
I'd never drop the chemist. No. It's such a force multiplier on the Thunderers. There is a route, if you're not too fussed about Brock shooting, to drop Brock for a navigator and then bump up a 3 riggers to a 6, or play ridiculously under. The one thing I found with the navigator, the unbind is okay. Saves you a heroic action, but often if you play the list properly and read the rules and know where all your free commands are, you can actually use the heroic action for an unbind more often than not, because you don't need the CP in a lot of cases. The navigator without the rerolls, I found just to be a little inconsistent.
Yeah, it is obviously with Stormcaller, it's great, but I've been playing it without and with the Fleet Master, and it's great. I love it. Because you can deny so many battle tactics the first 2 rounds. Because he picks a ship, the Fleet Master picks a ship within 12, not wholly within 12. So either himself in his ship or the other ship, and they have movement 10, 12, 14, depending. what enhancements you take, and they say, "Oh, I'm going to desecrate just one unit of Nurgle. So I'm going to desecrate this rock over here." Okay, end of your movement phase, my frigate's just going to go over there. Denied.
Yeah.
2 points.
Mhm.
Or
Yeah.
a cunning maneuver, or gaining momentum, something like that. Just no, this is my 5.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Ship counts as 5. Mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
strong.
do you often deploy just on the edge of the objectives and not on them, just to give yourself the option of that battle tactic? As well.
Take a claim, yes. Especially
Yeah.
since I play 10 drops. It's the same.
Yeah.
What I did with Fyreslayers. They have the same battle tactic,
Yes,
basically
yeah, they
called differently.
Mhm.
You just do deploy outside. If they give you first turn, you can immediately do that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it saves
You
some
don't
of the
even
other battle
you don't even need to
tactics,
commit. I just push up my screens, take 1 bond over here behind the rock,
Yeah.
take my home objective. 5 points. Thank you. Your turn. Let's
Yeah.
see what you can do.
Yeah, and then I'm going to double.
That's great. Yeah, there's the battle tactics are just too good. They are.
Yeah, I played the one dayer with the navigator and the 6 riggers, which again I think is a slightly better triumph bid. By a few points.
Yes, it's 1955.
Yeah,
Because
so
I played that list the other day against Slash. Yeah.
it was good. I really missed Brock shooting though. Just
Yeah.
I think it's one of those, because I've had it, I now know what I'm missing. I think if you've never had it, it's fine.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot with Brock and Nar, with the real party boat with 9 dudes and a hero and Brock, and let's go to town, and I just missed that. It's still good with Endrin riggers if you still have 9. It's just sometimes you just want that 80 damage from shooting and combat to just kill 20 horrors or something in one go.
Yeah,
it's just or
no,
10 chosen
it's a great
or
book.
6 Vanguard or whatever. Yeah.
Like, you don't need to own that many models to have so many different options.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Most of us have ironclads, multiples. Even you all have an admiral. There's a new admiral for your store anniversary, which I still need to paint.
Yeah, that was my prize for winning the one dayer the other week, which is cool. Not even because it was me that won it; it was just the prize.
Oh, that's cool.
Instance,
that's cool.
Yeah.
We all have a chemist, or we have Funderic, who is a chemist. Brock, I had him. I actually need to find him and dust him off and paint him.
I had to eBay him
for this.
I had to find him
for this book. He was the one I needed to paint, because the one I had became a Celestin Prime at one point.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And frigates, I'm painting the second one, and I have a third one somewhere for that day. I figure out the zone list with 3 frigates. I like it.
I'm up to 12 painted boats now.
Well,
7 haulers, 4 frigates, and an ironclad.
No, those rivets are killing me. Highlighting all
I
these
just don't paint
rivets. Okay. Well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, loving the book. I think it's great. Looking forward to this weekend playing the 10 drop.
Yep.
Can we quickly just talk about what you're taking to Blood Time, because it's very different. But I guess we should clarify. Oh, okay, there's a word for it, but just mention that it's for a teams event, so the thinking behind it is a bit different. I haven't prepped it, so I don't have a screen share, unfortunately. So
cool. No, it's all good. Let me.
I can bring it up.
I can tell you. It is Barak.
It's Barak Urbaz. I can't remember how many points it is.
Yes, it's Urbaz. It's 1995.
Yeah.
There he is.
It's.
Come on, Aileen. Yeah. Urba, so 2 articles. Settle grudges and honor is everything. So 4 up rally and +1 to wound. Trust your guns amendment. And without our ships, we are not to get out of the ship after teleport, basically. We have 2 admirals, 2 chemists, 1 with spell bottle, 1 with tunnel master, a code write, and a navigator. 2 times 15 thunderers, all the weapons, 10 arcanauts, an ironclad, and the soul screen bridge for free. since I see there is so free in letters in the parentheses on War Scroll Builder, if under endless spells, if you scroll further down, it gives you the 0-point options for spell bottle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Didn't
It
realize
just
that.
sells spell bottle, full screen bridge.
Yeah,
I
just
I
keep
opened
scrolling.
it.
Yeah. 2 command entourage with magnificence, so 1 extra aspect, 1 extra artifact,
Mhm.
and a Galician sharpshooters, which are your thunderers and arcanauts, which makes
Mhm.
sense. And then we have a tunnel master for the chemist that follows the thunderers that go through the bridge, I assume,
Mhm.
so he can
Yeah.
be next to them. The admiral doesn't need to; he can just be in a boat. And the other chemist is in the boat with the other admiral, getting out with combat
Yeah, so
disembark.
the tunnel master, instead of another item, is purely just in case I need to split up.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah, no, it
if
makes
I can-
absolutely makes sense, and you still get the leadership of the alpha. You could maybe drop leadership of the alpha and get the Voidstone Orb on the Navigator, which is also very handy in a teams format.
Yeah,
But I guess
Yeah.
at one point you need to decide.
I think the Voidstone would be a play if you were 1-drop, because
Mhm.
it gives you the options to take second turn in some games that you necessarily wouldn't. I think when you're
Yeah.
not getting the choice, I think the orb is useful in the games where you're not getting the choice anyway.
Mhm.
It's still very useful.
It is fantastic.
Yeah. It's just, I think the Tunnel Master just gives you the option to separate. Whereas if you
Yeah.
don't have it, they know that you play in a bubble.
Mhm.
And it's very sort of a formulaic game at
Yeah.
that point.
Often it just depends. Against Teclis, then the Navigator just goes in the front of my army within 30 inches of him, and the rest goes somewhere else.
Yeah.
I just need to use it once, and then sure I can half move or do some mortal wounds to some heroes.
Yeah.
So, would you ever consider taking a list like that to a singles event?
It's full shooting, you know.
I don't think so. Not with a. Not if I'm going to the event to win it. I don't think so.
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of things that are out of your hands,
Mhm.
and I think the 10-drop list is a little bit more reliant on priority rolls. I
Mhm.
think in a singles event that is not win, loss, draw, where you have to be scoring, like a 20-0 system, like teams use, it may be slightly better. I think it has more options to potentially win bigger,
Mhm.
but it also has more games that it might lose.
Yeah.
I think if it wins, it should win big, but it could have a bogey matchup.
It is. You're going full shooting in this list, which is great against some opponents.
I think when we can direct it to the list that it really wants to play, or we
Mhm.
can avoid the list it really doesn't
you
want to play.
can avoid the I don't know if Deepkin,
Yeah.
Which there are none at Blood Type, I think.
No, none at all.
Which is
Yeah, I think it's like after seeing what 15 Thunderers can do, just doubling that seems pretty cool.
It is obnoxious with 4 rend cannon shots,
And I think because you're in the sharpshooters as well, like those cannons are always killing heroes.
Even if you hit on freeze and 2s, 4 rend, boom, 6 damage.
Mhm.
Or 9 damage actually.
Yeah. So yeah, you should kill 2 support heroes with them before anything else, which is nice.
Yeah. And that already can wreck some armies.
Yeah, I'm looking at like the Guild of Summoners and things like that. Yeah.
Kill the 2 small guys. You can
kill the guy who gives you the Destiny dice back, and then it screws the grand strategy, and that's all.
Yeah. Or the one that knows the 5-up ward spell. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So no, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be good.
Sounds fun. Yeah.
Cool.
friend of mine who's going to be there, Toby, with Zinj.
He's playing on Luke's team, isn't he? Yes.
Yeah, he is. He is
Yeah.
playing on Luke's team. So yeah, let's see how that goes. Hope you all have a great time.
Thank you
Best
very
of luck to
much.
the free KO players.
2?
No, I think there's also a Danish guy bringing.
Okay.
Yeah, there's me. There's
you.
Owen.
There's Owen Jackson.
Yes,
with
the
KO,
Owen Jackson.
following the meta. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's the Danish with the Prime list, which I'm quite interested in how it gets on.
Danish Prime might have been talking to Marcus Fredriksson, who is a big fan of Prime and KO lists.
Yeah. I used him in the last book. I haven't tried him this book yet.
Yeah.
I think he has play because he does something similar, but it's 300 points you can spend on a frigate. So
Yeah.
I'm torn.
It's also though it's pretty interesting to see how much you get in a list when you don't have an Ironclad.
It is.
Yeah.
As soon as you don't have those 500 points spent, it's like okay.
You can do a lot of balloons. For 500 points. Yeah. Which are great.
Which is interesting. I don't know whether you guys had the same, but I think a lot of the initial thoughts were that the Ironclad wasn't worth it. But then there's an Ironclad in most lists.
I think if you want to take 15 Thunderers,
and
you don't want to bridge them, then you have to.
You have to. Yeah.
So,
but it's a means to an end. I don't take the Ironclad because the Ironclad is that good in shooting. It is good in shooting, but still only has Rend 1. But you take it to transport 15 Thunderers.
Yeah.
So most of my lists, I actually went away from playing 2 Ironclads to none. Which is a shame.
I haven't looked at 2 yet.
I don't think you need. You can play 2. I don't think it's the way to go anymore.
No.
It used to be because it was the most shooting efficient per points in the entire book. You got the most damage out per points you spent. That's no longer true because Thunders do much more. Or even Endrinriggers with Rend 2 shooting on a +1 wound. That's 9 do 27 shots at Rend 2. I mean, 2s and 3s if you want. So
it's stuff like that feels slightly obnoxious. That your combat guys still have Rend 2 shooting.
So that's what makes the party boat so good. You fly up, you shoot everyone, and then you charge in.
Because they can actually kill a screen pretty reliably.
Absolutely. And then you do a 3d6 charge. You maybe need a 12 rerollable. You can do it. I've done it.
Yeah, and there's
Kill
a lot of dice.
Sentinels.
So, I mean, I've only been playing with units of 6 riggers, which is still 18 shots. If you've got 9, then 27 shots.
9 is 27 shots. 27 shots, and with Rock 28 saw attacks. It's fun. Yeah, great fun.
Mm-hmm. You tell someone you've got 27 Rend 2 shots, they start being like, oh.
I'm just, by the way, those are the combat guys.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to start killing the rest of the 4 dragons.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I think we covered everything and more.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. It's always great to have your insight or different insights into the book.
Mm-hmm.
We all have our opinion on the book. So it's great to have you as an experienced player join us. Looking forward to meet you again in Amsterdam.
Yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be good.
So
maybe get another one of those shirts.
Yeah, well, are we going to use the same ones? Or
no, we've got white. We've got white ones this time.
Oh yeah, then definitely.
Yeah, you can have one of each.
Get me one. Yeah, that's great.
Awesome.
Thank you, Lee, for preparing all the beautiful slides.
Yeah.
As always.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We only spotted one typo this time, so.
I think that's because we weren't looking. There is also a formatting error here. My mouse has gone to sleep, so I can't highlight it.
I spotted one more, but I won't say.
Oh.
Okay. Well, that is like a challenge for someone to go back for the whole show and look for the other typo.
Do that. And then write in the comments, if you like KO or you like Tom playing KO. Subscribe if you haven't.
Yes.
I don't know what percentage of people that watch our videos have not subscribed, but I assume it's bigger than 20%. I'm just guessing. Please do. It helps us. It helps other people find the show. And if you have friends that play KO, direct them our way. We're always trying to find better players than us to give you all the insights into KO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you for
Yeah,
joining.
thank you both for coming on.
Yeah,
Thanks,
cheers.
Doris and Tom. Hopefully we can get you on again another time. No pressure to win more tournaments.
We'll see. We'll type and then chat next week, right?
Yeah. And yeah, thanks for everyone for watching and for joining us in the chat. And we'll see you again next time, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Hi.